So this is a sign for take turns. If you're having a conversation, we go around, right? So this is oftentimes used for, we take turns in the conversation. So this can be one for having a group conversation. So that's one of the signs from the rationale. There's one snapshot, and they're going to talk about deaf gatherings. And this is the one, we've used this for a gathering of people here, the group of people all coming together. And if you repeat it, gatherings. Also, you'll see this sign, sometimes people will just do it with their fingers or use the whole hand. It means variety or miscellaneous, so it can be for a variety of different reasons. Some people even do with V's. Probably best not to. In class, I've shown this as interest. Oh, interesting, right? It's a double like. Interesting. But it can also be used similarly as interests. And it used to be this, and now it's switching to, in the last 15 years, 20 years, something like that. It's been switching to this for interest a lot more solidly. And you'll see this being used a lot in this chapter. So I'm going to have to highlight that a few times. So interests. Oh, interest, what? Variety. Some. If you carve off a piece, carve off a slice of cake or pie, right? Some people. Dominoes. I've seen a couple different varieties of this. Here are the dominoes, right? And you place them next to each other, right? Dominoes. And another image that she's going to use in this video, there are more types of meetings, and then gives a list. Doesn't explain the list, just says you could make a list of them. So right. So she gives some examples and then says there are plenty more. I'm going to go through the vocab just to quick go over them. I'm working on creating a vocab list since I can't seem to find any on YouTube that anybody else has posted. So I'll try to make a vocab video of that. Cooking. And depending on the skill, some people will be far away, cook, or move like this if they're like Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen. Right. So it's all basically this same sign, right? Grilling barbecue. Simple. BBQ. In Ohio, what I've seen most is BBQ. Barbecue. In the what's the sign they do? Barbecue, BBQ. So it's still BBQ, however you see it. Baking bread, baking cakes, things like that. No other application of that word. Playing video games, or some people also do playing game. We don't have to sign game because it's kind of in there. Notice the difference between texting and playing games. You're a bit more animated as you're playing the games. There used to be TV games, but video games. You can see little combinations of that depending on the person signing. So just keep all of those things sort of in mind. Photography, right? So it's not just this. Reading, actually, you know what? So if you remember, before we used photograph, so it comes from the picture printed out, right? So if you're talking about a photograph. If you're talking about the act of taking photos, photography. Reading. Shopping. And in class, we've talked about, sometimes you'll see this for shopping, going store to store. But generally speaking, if you're going out buying stuff, I know for myself, I tend to, if I'm going out buying a list of things at different stores, I'll do this. If I'm going shopping with no real intention on spending money, I might do this. Oh, I'm just going to the stores, no real intention. I used to, you go to the mall and you walk from store to store to store and you go in and look at stuff. I'm not going to spend money, especially when I was a college student. Didn't have any, so I didn't buy anything. So you can see those two, they're kind of interchangeable. Depends. Either one can work. I will recommend this as a generic, as your bottom line one. It applies to more situations. Knitting. I've also seen knitting. Here you see the needles, here you don't. Sewing. Bird watching. So here's bird. You can watch, or you can bird watch. We've used this for, it's a replacement. There's the two fingers from here. To look at something, to watch, to see something, which is more passive, to watch something where you've pursued it, but you're still not really involved. Watching TV, watching movies. In most of these cases, now that we're getting some more complex images for this vocab, notice how we're using object, subject, verb. We're using that OSV, right? So it's bird, I watch. Or bird, I look at. You'll sometimes see people with like the binoculars, right? So in English, we use the ing, I think the gerund ending, right? In ASL, we use the OSV. Movie watch, same thing. Watch tends to be a movement watch. Geocaching, which is going to come up, is using a compass or GPS to do scanning, whatever. So just be aware that this sign, this hand shape gets used a lot. I can watch something. I can geocache. I can geocache. People will sign it in many different ways. So just be aware of that. Look at the context that gets set up. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I'm giving some advice on the assignments. Scrapbooking. So just think about what the act of scrapbooking is. You take photos, you cut them, and you put them in a photo album or whatever in a scrapbook. So it's usually like recent pictures or pictures, like you put them in the book and like you can review them or you can look at them. You could do artwork in them. So there's lots of different ways that you can sign scrapbooking, but they all have to do with what is the action involved in it. So even look at what's the sign. It's different than what gets signed in the worksheets. So just be aware, like look at what they're doing. Almost all the signs you're going to recognize. You might have to put them together and go, well, what does this mean? Oh, that means this. Obviously with the worksheets, if you're having to select like four different options, eliminate the ones that are wrong. And then what's left should lead you down the right path. And maybe you have to go, oh, well, this probably means this. The geocaching one, I'm going to have to explain in a second because there's something about that one. So geocaching, it technically should be this, right? But sometimes people will just do this especially if they're talking about it out of context. Was it the worksheet? I think it was the worksheet. Hanging out with friends. Here's another OSV. Friends, gathering, friends. So again, OSV, friends is the object. Well, subject verb, friends. Friends I interact with. Another sign that they use is this. It's two U's, like smacking each other. And the best way I can describe it is, when you're hanging out with your best friends, how you razz each other, whatever, how you will insult each other and joke with each other, one up each other. That's what this is. With friends, gathering. You'll also see it when someone, like, if I were to say something smart and catch you, and haha, gotcha, or oh, you got me, whap. Sometimes people say whap, 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 whap. The song wasn't out when that was invented, so sorry. So people, if you're hanging out with your friends, just sort of shooting the then that kind of thing. So just something to think about in one of the what's the signs. That's what they show. Collections. This is also used for the sign for salary, what you earn. Okay, so, or you could collect things. You could gather, cleaning up your room, grabbing all this stuff and putting it away. Coins. Here's the coin. And you don't have to worry about small and large. I mean, if you want to say big coins, but generally speaking, just coins. Collect. Figurines. So here's the little guy. Action figures. They're not dolls, right? I've also seen like little statues. Any kind of cards. You're drawing the card. So cards, baseball cards, Pokemon cards, MTG, Magic, the Gathering cards. So any kind of cards you want, you're just sort of drawing a rectangle. Antiques. You can fingerspell. Or old-fashioned things. So it looks like 99, FF, fashion things. Old-fashioned things. And if you're specific, like, I collect coffee cups, right? Whatever. I don't, but I collect board games. Comic books. I have not seen a vocab that is better than this one. There should be one, because what it is books, funny, comic. But if you collect comic books, you know that most of them are not funny. Most of them are superhero books, superhero comics or other things like that. So I know a lot of people who don't like this as comic books, but it's not comic in terms of comedian funny. It's illustrated book comic. So another one comes up, we'll add it to the list. Stamps. So here's stamp. We're going to use this because they're a little bit larger, right? We want it to show that it's sort of a flat object. And then here's the envelope, and we put it on here. So lick stamp. Now I know. Now you peel them, but and you can say stamps. Stamp. Right? So that's collect stamps. So here's the vocab. I'm going to make a video that goes over just each of them, kind of like the other guy did. We'll try that. Hopefully I can use that to cut apart and make flashcards. Maybe that'll save a little bit of time. This one doesn't have that many. And I'm going to record some more specific advice and put it in here so I have a separate video. I think that'll be easier. So that's it for Unit 6.2.